out there. I'm attorney Brian Tierney. This is Breaking Bread with Brian. It's the first one back since COVID messed everything up. Anyway, we're back now. In life, you know, you got to enjoy the finer things in life. And that's why we're here at this lovely restaurant with this lovely guest. Today we're here at Ciao Ragazzi, in my opinion, the best restaurant in Garfield Ridge. When I think about what the best restaurant is, I think about four things. I think about price, I think about quality of food, I think about the atmosphere and the service. This restaurant has all those things. And you don't have to take my word for it, take a look at the reviews. The food is delicious. And this restaurant is an asset to Garfield Ridge. I've grown up here all my life, and there was a lot of Italian people that I grew up with, and it's nice to have a restaurant this good. Here, the food is delicious, the prices are reasonable, the atmosphere is nice and cozy, and the ownership knows that you got to be good to people and you got to create a relationship with them, and they've done that very well here. They treat you like family when you're in here. It has a very good feel. So definitely stop on by and check out Ciao. Another thing I love about them is that they make their own pasta here, which I think is a sign of a good Italian restaurant. It's not some boxed bullshit that's processed or whatever. It's homemade. Also, they make some of their own ice cream, which you guys might be seeing in a little while when we order that later on. I know I will be. Here with me today is Rubi Velazquez from MRV Financial. She's the owner. She's going to be telling us about how to save money on your taxes if you're a realtor and if you're a rehabber. How can you save money with deductions? But we're also going to learn about Rubi, who she is, and how she got to where she's at, and here with us today. So Rubi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be breaking bread with Brian after COVID. Cheers to that, definitely. I was not aware that this is your comeback, so I'm super flattered to be here, and I am really looking forward to add value to our community. Today we will be talking about flipping, realtor services, and incorporations and everything under the umbrella to help empower and educate our community through financial literacy. So I am very, very excited.
Well, thank you. And financial literacy is super important. They don't teach that in schools, unfortunately. I learned a bunch of stuff that I probably didn't need to know, and now as a lawyer, the most complicated math I use is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your information that you have to offer. Knowledge is power, and it's also saving money. And so for the real estate professionals out here, and also the clients they serve that are rehabbers and all the other people in the community, maybe they already know some of this information, and maybe it's a refresher for them, and maybe it's not. So we're going to break it down in real core components. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Rubi, before we really get into what you do. Where were you born and raised?
This is always the nerve-wracking part of any interview, right?
Tell
me about yourself.
It should be easy. You know yourself better than anybody else.
So I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco. It's in Mexico. And I was brought to the U.S. As a child. I was 8 years old. So I was raised here, in the U.S. as an adult.
At 8 years old?
At 8 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
I like Jalisco. I've been there before. I was in Guadalajara for a wedding in 2018. Shout out to Gloria Ulloa, Ruben Ulloa, and Christian and April. I went to their wedding. It was beautiful, and it was nice to have such great tour guides down there in Mexico. So I've been to your home, your motherland, and your birthplace. And so it's a lot of people live there. How many people are in Jalisco? Do you know, 10 million or something?
You know what? You got me on that. I don't know what the current number is.
Yeah, because it's not just the inner city in Guadalajara. There is so much parts of Jalisco.
Yes.
Jalisco, is it considered kind of like the equivalent of a state here?
Yes.
Or is it like a county? So it's a state. So
yes.
It's very
So Guadalajara is the city, and then Jalisco has look, if we want to compare it to here, has a lot of little suburbs. So where my family resides is Zapopan. So there are municipalities down there. So Jalisco is made up of municipalities. So the one that we are from is literally, we are in Berwyn today. In Chicago, it is the same equivalent from Zapopan to Guadalajara. So that's a fun fact.
Say that one more time. I couldn't wrap my brain around it.
Guadalajara.
No, but Guadalajara is how close?
Oh, so it is the same distance that Berwyn is to Chicago.
Okay, so it's close.
Zapopan, which is
it's
where...
like a suburb right outside of Guadalajara.
Correct, yes.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. When we were there, I was mostly in Guadalajara. We were staying at the Presidente Hotel. It was very nice. It was the first time I was at a hotel in my life that had a rooftop pool. It wasn't on the top floor, but it was like 17 floors up or something, and it was really cool. We were able to, I think we had Cuban cigars there. Whatever the cigars were, they're very good. And so we were just in the pool having fun in the daytime, although I was working. It hurt my fucking heart that I was in the hotel room on the laptop while all the young people were down there at the pool, like dancing and shit. I'm like, Jesus, I gotta work on real estate here, because at the time it was just me and my 2 assistants. I had nobody else to help me, so it was busier than I am now, or no, not busier, just managing more than I was now. But it was very nice. We also went to Tlaquepaque.
Oh, yes.
And they had, I believe that's where the wedding was, in a church there by the hall. The church was like, they had a church in the plaza, and then there was like a market there where you could buy, clothes and all these things. It was pretty cool. I actually got a belt there that I still wear to this very day. It's really thick, so they do the leather good there.
Yes.
But another place that was there was really nice was Plaza del Sol in Guadalajara. We would go there each morning for breakfast, because, the Irish and Mexican people seem to have breakfast in common. They like it, right? Or to get over there, have some eggs, and get some fresh air and a little coffee in me to wake me up. So we did that, and it was great experience. We went to a place where there were some hot springs. It wasn't Aguas Calientes, it was another place, but they had some hot springs there. I think it was in Ajijic.
Okay, yep.
But we were only there for one day, and our flight was in the afternoon, so when we got there, we had to leave. But we also did tequila. We were in the tequila barrels, the hotel room. Really cool.
That's awesome.
So we did a lot in a little bit of time.
So yeah, you're really talking about, what you experience is a lot of the culture, right? Back to, how that part of Guadalajara, or even, Mexico is made up, lots of municipalities, lots of states. The hot springs are huge. I just actually came back from Mexico. I went twice this year. I got the pleasure of opening up a call center down there. So I went down for business purposes. I got to reconnect with my family through a life event. When death happens in your family, you don't plan for these things, right?
You got a death in the family?
I did. My father passed away.
You went there because of your father passing, or because you were just there when he passed?
It was interesting how the trip happened versus how it was supposed to happen. I had planned to be down there in September. My dad and I have been in communication via phone calls. He retired. He got to that place where we all want to get to in his retirement age. And, he had the same dreams that every person that leaves their homeland in Mexico is very huge, to want to go back home, So my dad was blessed to be able to go back home during his retirement age. We stayed in contact, definitely.
Was he pretty healthy throughout his retirement, or did he get sick as he retired?
He was pretty healthy. He passed away from a heart attack, so it was very subtle, very fast. It happened Memorial Day weekend, and him and I have been talking about me going back to Mexico, and he always had these conversations with me about opening up a business down there. He just wanted me back home. So I remember I had went to a national conference last September, and they talked about, getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of your state, getting out of your city, thinking beyond you, thinking internationally. And my dad popped into my mind at that time, and I was like, maybe this is a time for me to discover and find out, what other opportunities there are. So I just had some very nonchalant conversations with my dad saying, hey, I think I'm going to open up a business in Mexico, and I'm going to have more opportunities for me to come back home. So I said, I'm going to come visit you when I go for business purposes. So I was supposed to go in September, 2 months ago, for me to start this exploration. And, it was time for him to re-meet with my mom. My mom passed away 5 years ago. So, it was time for him to re-meet with her and be on the other side. So that sped up the process. So I remember while, we're dealing with this storm and, talking with family and just trying to figure out, legal issues and all of that. I just kept hearing my dad, like, it's going to be okay. I'm okay. We're okay. Just get here, basically, is what I kept hearing. And I was very intentional during that trip. I said, I haven't seen my family since my mom passed away. And I didn't want to have that same experience. I wanted to have a better experience. I wanted to have the time to really get to know them outside of a grieving process that we were all really going through. And it just felt like I want to meet them as well. And since I'm going to be there, I'm going to take an extended trip and, speed up the process.
And you worked from Jalisco while you were there?
Yes, so MRV Financial is a virtual firm. We do everything virtually. MRV Financial was born in 2016, but it didn't come, I didn't announce it to the world till 2019. And that's when I started hiring and I started to grow. So I decided, as any business owner like yourself, I'm sure you went through the planning process of, I'm going to go and become, an attorney, and I'm going to have my practice, and you have to think of locations and all of that. And I remembered in my history, I have been doing taxes since 2006. I basically got my bachelor's in 2008. I remember my sophomore class was one of those taxation classes, and the professor just said, okay, you are now legally allowed to do people's taxes. I was like, okay, sign me up. So that's how I started doing it, very nonchalant, very casual with friends and family. And through the years, I just continued to build that, book of business that was a very seasonal to begin with. So fast forward to when I build up, I'm working on my business plan. I was like, okay, well, how do I want to do this? And I had used to have an office before, and I thought of the overhead, and I just felt like I wanted to become more humanly accessible to people through by becoming a virtual firm. And this was before the pandemic. And I remember I heard a professor from, my accounting classes saying how accounting was, or, the financial field was a beautiful field for women, especially who I was at the time, to thrive in it and have opportunities to be able to work remotely from anywhere, whether you chose to work from home, anywhere. So then I started to just really hone in on that and decided, I was like, okay, well, when you call NICOR, when you call ComEd, you don't ever get to see the people. You know they're in a location, they're somewhere, but you don't ever get to see them. So I started, that's where the idea virtually started. I want to be able to be there for people, and I want to be humanly connected, but it's just going to be virtually now. So I remember when I started, everybody was like, what do you mean? What's Zoom? What's Dropbox? All the systems that I use. Fast forward to when the pandemic happened. I was blessed that I was already virtual for about 2 years before it happened. So I came in very strong, and I really believe that the pandemic really helped my business grow. And it helped, have that trust now where people are a lot more open to having, a virtual meeting. So that's how, the idea of grew of staying virtually. So it's always, and another piece was, how am I going to attract people to want to work with me? Well, I love working from home. You know, I love having my office. I love being there for my family. I love to be able to take a break and see my son, you know, talk to my husband, and then I'm back to work. And I have to physically get into a vehicle to go somewhere. So I said, if I enjoy this, let me give that enjoyment to, you know, whoever works with me as well. So I also use that because at the time in my industry, that was not available to professionals. So, you know, from that I just kept growing, and fast forward, my trip to Mexico, it sped up to where, you know, I already started training for my virtual center. I have one person in staff. You know, we've been doing this for about a month or two now, and, you know, I just cannot wait to see what else is gonna turn into. And just the fact that I am able to manage someone virtually in a whole different country. That was something that never in my, you know, career wildest dreams, I would think I'm gonna do that one day. You know, so I consider myself very blessed to be able to have the opportunity that I have, and then to be able to share that, you know, with my friends, my family, my business partners, you know, so that we could continue to educate.
What is the significance of MRV? Do the letters mean something?
Yes, it's my name. I'm not that creative. So if anybody wants to ask me, hey, what should I name my business? You will get an initial, most likely. You know, so it's.
Well, I usually call you Ruby.
That's my middle name.
Okay, what's your main name?
So my first name is Mireya.
Oh.
In English, it's Mariah. So it's a very beautiful name, whether you say it in Spanish or English. R is for Ruby, and then V is for Velazquez.
Well, I learned something new today, and I was wondering, when you mentioned MRV, I didn't know if the last was virtual, but now that I know it's your initial.
Oh, you know, I could change it up.
I think it's good the way it is. It's a very personal touch.
Yes. Yeah, so that's so that's about me, and you know how I'm reconnecting back to my homeland while I'm staying here and servicing my clients. You know, so there's a lot more that is going to come. Everything's just in that, you know, for me 2022 was about evolution. You know, I don't know if you believe in God, if you believe in the universe, if you believe in you know, energies. At the end of the day, we all have a bigger power, right, that we serve. And there's a book that I'm currently rereading because I needed, you know, I'm one of those people that if I have a really good book, I don't mind going back. It's like watching a movie that you really, really liked, right? So I'm re-listening to this book, and he talks about how every article was meant to combine with something else. So, you know, we're going to talk about real estate, right? So let's talk about a construction company. I don't know if you know that cement and steel, they're made from like the same particles, that they're supposed to be very strong. And when you mix them together, you get a better, you create something new, stronger, something bigger, something strong, right? So I feel like 2022 was that evolution for me, where I'm now connecting two countries and making something strong. They're already there. It's just I'm merging them. And you know, for me to think of 2022 evolution, that was a word that I'm really embracing. Through the universe, through everything, through my connections, I feel like it is our duty, it is our responsibility to help one another as human beings, because one human being alone cannot do it all. There's just, if you were to leave one human being alone, they would eventually die a lot faster than they would versus when they're surrounded by people, because that's the way we were made. That's why you are an attorney. You get to touch so many lives. You know, through your profession, I feel like that's how we give back to the world, through our work. And for me, it is truly one of my biggest inspirations of the more people that I can change, the better that I am serving.
Yeah, we have that in common very much so. And, you know, I have closed in the last 6 years a few thousand transactions. I've been blessed. They've been very busy years. And sometimes the clients that I serve are just in my life for a brief moment, but I always try to make them feel comfortable and give them a memorable experience, especially when we're at the closing, regardless of whether they're full English speaking, limited English speaking, or sometimes Spanish only. Although sometimes I'll have attorneys cover for me on the Spanish ones. Other times I'll be there and they'll just translate for me. Sometimes people come with their family, or if the realtor's there. There's nothing wrong with that. I keep things in a way that is easy for everybody to understand. But I feel like the most important things we do is make the lives of people in our family, in our close friends, and in our community good. Like, after everything we've been through during COVID and everything, really feel like the best change comes from the people themselves. And after having been shut down for a long time, right, we weren't doing stuff like this. People are not used to being outgoing as much as they have been. I've noticed this, and I try even at the grocery store. I was in Jewel one day, and I just started saying, "Hey, how you doing?" as I pass people, and it did get people's attention. I keep my social skills sharp at all times, and I believe that kindness is a universal language that allows us all to get along. It's one of the universal languages. You have music and laughter and love and all these things, and so. But in any event, we share that as well. I like bringing people together, but at the end of the day, I got to remember, it's nice to be involved in real estate. We're young, beautiful people doing all these things and accomplishing things, and it's nice. But at the end of the day, I have a responsibility to be home safely to my wife and to my little doggy, and soon we're going to be having kids and all this stuff, so that'll be nice as well. And I have a responsibility to them. I have a responsibility to my mom. She lives down the street from me, just down the street. I bought a house on the same, she's on one block, and then I'm just the next one down on the same street. And I wanted it that way. I like being here in the city. For some people, it doesn't really matter, or they need to step outside of their comfort zone to grow, as you mentioned earlier. But for me, my heart's here, and there's a lot wrong in Illinois. But it's not so much the people as the financial situation that we're in as a state and the government that got us there. And it's, it's unfortunate. So maybe that will affect the people in real estate, in the community as well. But I think what we can do to mitigate that is be good to each other. And it's a skill that takes sharpening. We talked about they don't really teach financial literacy in school, and they also don't teach, we don't have a lot of values anymore. And you mentioned, God and stuff like this. And I was raised Catholic, but I'm not the most religious person. My cousin, she jokes around and says, I'm a Christmas Catholic, meaning I show up to church around that time, maybe Easter if you're lucky, right? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So I'm kind of like that myself. I believe in doing good. I believe that if there is a God, we are kind of made in God's image, and I feel like I'm already in heaven sometimes. And part of that is just because I've surrounded myself with good people. What I do would not be possible without my wife, without my assistant Stephanie, my assistant Rocio, the new attorney at my office, Matt, aka Mateo, right? And so, without them, I'm not, they say in the Army, like Army of one, but it's really the group, you know what I mean? I'm only as good as the people I surround myself with, and right now I'm kind of living a dream. I have a job that I make fun because I'm doing it with friends of mine, you know what I mean? And so it's I couldn't be more blessed and all that. But in terms of helping out real estate professionals and people who are rehabbing, we want to let them know some practical advice on how to save money with their taxes. So who would you like to start with first? People in the real estate industry, including realtors, or people who rehab homes and things like that?
We can go either way. We could start with realtors and then
Okay.
make it into the flipping side.
So if you're a realtor, you're an independent contractor, is that right?
Yes, for the most part, that's how most written contracts are written.
So you're an independent contractor. That means that you don't get a steady paycheck like you would if you were a W-2. At least for realtors, they get paid as their work is completed. And one thing I want to mention, I guess, just kind of popped in my head, is that people think realtors make a lot of money, and they do, but also their realty takes anywhere from 20 to 50%, depending on what their agreement is, and the government takes another, or it could be a flat rate arrangement as well, but then the government takes 20, 30% of taxes, and they're left with whatever is left at the end of the day. And they're making something out of nothing. I mean, they're creating a sale, bringing people together. It was easier for the past few years when the interest rates were low, but people are still working hard. And so when you're an independent contractor, you can deduct business expenses.
Yeah, so I think it's very good that you brought up about bringing up the clarity of, I love to demystify bad information. That is I think that's my job, to make sure that people understand the difference between, the truth and the untruth, or the reality versus the smoke and mirrors, right? So a realtor is considered a business owner. If you think of a realtor, they're a business owner like myself, like
regardless
yourself,
of whether
regardless.
They have their own realty.
Yes.
They're still a business owner.
Yeah.
As an independent contractor.
As an independent contractor, that is the beauty of being an independent contractor. You get to write out your contract according to the need of, let's say, a realtor who works for a managing broker. Well, a managing broker is going to come in and say, hey, these are the guidelines. This is the structure. This is how you get paid. This is what you get paid. So out of 100%, not to get into specifics of who makes what or what company makes what, generically speaking is, the managing broker is who you're wearing the name brand, right? Whether it's whatever name brand you're carrying. So you gotta follow the rules, and they will say, if you want to wear our jersey, our name brand, this is how you get paid. This is how much you get paid. This is what the agency takes, and we don't pay any taxes for you. And I want to make sure that is the point that people do understand, that being an independent contractor, no one is responsible because you are a business owner. You are fully responsible for all of the activities of your business to produce the income. For you to gain, for you to make a sale, then you will also take into consideration everything that it took for you to make that sale.
Wrong button. What are you gonna do?
I'm trying.
No,
I know.
Drank some water down the wrong button.
Yeah. I hate when that happens. I always say I don't know how to drink water. That's okay.
But you were saying that you, as a realtor, you're within certain confines, but you are responsible for paying your own taxes, and that means that you have to be disciplined. I know this as well as a small business owner, that I have to send in money quarterly. Mm-hmm. Well, I do mine as a salary, so my law firm is set up where it's an LLC that it gets tax treatment as an S corp.
Okay.
And so I do quarterly payments of a salary to myself for payroll. And in my case, I'm really just paying the taxes. I'm not steadily giving myself money out of the account. I take it as I need it, but I pay myself based on a salary. And that's a way for me to save money. And I believe for the realtors as well. So is that something that you recommend for realtors? And before we even get to that, we want to just back up and say, what would be a good percentage of the money that a realtor gets after their expenses are taken out from the realty? How much should they be withholding for taxes? 20%?
I would say anywhere between 15 to 30%.
Between 15 and 30.
15 and 30%.
And that does hurt, doesn't it? To have to put that money away, but you got to stay disciplined.
You do.
Because otherwise you're going to have a big tax bill and you have to get on a repayment plan if you don't have the money,
Yes, and that is the part, I'm glad we're talking about this, because one of the things that you have to treat it like your business. You have to make time for your financial planning. You have to make time to talk to your financial representative, whether it's a CPA, an accountant, a tax strategist, whoever is helping you with your finances. Very, very important that they understand everything that there is about your business. There is nothing worse than getting misled because someone doesn't understand how you do business. An LLC is a great one adding the S corporation also adds that structure. I
And
would
you
not.
can help people with these things?
And we do handle every single tax file from personal to trust to S corps, corporations, LLCs, sole proprietors, and what may work for a sole proprietor may not work for someone like yourself that may be a realtor within a LLC and an S corporation tax status, because that's really what the S corporation is. It gives you a different tax status than just doing the LLC. So it's always good to look at the person and say, yeah, generically speaking, this is one way to do it, but then you may have someone that doesn't have the capacity to handle an S corporation. S corporations is one of the very first, or really easy for you to lose your S corporation status with the state of, with the IRS if it is not managed properly. If you don't do all of the mixes, so especially what you're saying, you're not paying yourself properly. For yourself, you put yourself a pay structure, right?
Well, I have a payroll, but that is possible for any realtor to do as well, even if you're the only person on payroll.
Correct.
I personally use ADP. I could probably get a better price, somewhere else, but they're the biggest ones to do it. They make it very easy. They have, a website that's basically like an app that allows me to pay myself and my employees quickly and easily. And so even if you're just one person, and the reason I mentioned my setup is it may benefit realtors in the sense that I save about 7 to 8% because I can deduct half of the Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid tax, known as the payroll tax, as part of my taxes. So I'm saving money there, and maybe that would work for some realtors. Other realtors might not need that. That's a little more complex of a setup, but they do need to have the infrastructure in place of having a payroll set up and things like that then.
Yeah. So let me now tell you the other side of that, right? So there's this is where it's very important to talk to someone, right? So what you just mentioned about how they pay it, an LLC, if they're not making their payments, when it comes down to showing up to the tax table, trying to rush that conversation and trying to come without the proper information for anyone to guide you is like you're already shooting yourself on the foot, because you don't even know what kind of, these are very good questions, right? So FICA is what you're talking about. FICA consists of Social Security and Medicare. So what happens, let's just pretend that it's an LLC organization. Without the S status, or however it is that the structure that we're using as a comparison, how they will do it, they could be sending their payments as well. And then at the end of the year, instead of them putting that payment every quarter, this is the part that people don't like, that they still contribute to Social Security and they still contribute to Medicare, but now they do it in the tax season. So when you're getting that $20,000 bill, that $10,000 bill, $7,000 bill, this is the first thing to see. That full $7,000 is not just IRS money. It is a mixture of your percent based on your income, based on how much you made. That is your tax to the IRS as a property tax payer, or not property tax payer, it's an income tax payer. And then the 15% gets divided.
Just for the social programs that you do get the benefit of later in your life.
Exactly.
So when you retire, if you're putting in money to Social Security, you will be able to draw from it. And then likewise with Medicaid or Medicare, you will be able to take advantage of having that as a healthcare option.
Correct.
When you retire. So it is probably beneficial for realtors to be contributing to those things.
Yes.
Especially realtors who don't have a lot of investments outside of
Correct.
real estate and stocks and things like that.
Yeah, so understanding why you get such a high number and understanding how that number is divided is very, very important, because let's say your structure that you have currently. Well, you've been contributing throughout the year. There is absolutely no reason why you're getting to the tax table and you have this huge bill because you've already been planning according. You've been treating yourself like an employee of your company. And I think that sometimes as business owners, we get so caught up with a certain mentality of, I don't have to pay taxes, I don't have to pay this, I don't have to pay that. Well, understanding what kind of taxes, what goes into that plays a big role, because then you could really learn how to respect yourself and say, as part of as an employee to my organization, what are the things that my family needs for me to do? They need me to stay up to date with my financials, because what's gonna happen when I get to the tax table and I have not been paying my bills the way that I should be, whether they're to the IRS, whether they're to my Social Security, whether they're to an investment, treat it like anything else and say, I'm gonna keep up to date, or no, you know what? I understand that I'm gonna end up paying that whole amount. Here comes the tax deadline. And what happens is, this is where a lot of, resentment, anger, and all of these things come because they're not really understanding it. And they're not respecting their family, because what happens is, what if you have to dip into your savings account? What if you have to dip into something so that, people don't like to pay interest. If you don't pay your tax responsibility by the due date, they will charge you interest rates on it. And they will impose penalties as well for not paying. So the rule is you need to pay 90% of your tax bill by 12/31/20, ending of the year.
Yeah. By
for
December 31st at the end
year.
of every year, you're supposed to have paid 90%. Otherwise, you will suffer interest and penalties.
Correct.
And depending on the size of the bill, the interest and penalties can be larger or smaller, because it's probably based on the amount of money you owe. And people face challenges. There's an old Irish saying that my dad taught me, because he was from Ireland. It's that the shoemaker's children are the last one to get their shoes. That means that the worker, the realtor, does the work for everybody else, which is a very tough business to be in, because you have to make a sale or, make sure these deals are going through, which requires a lot of time and work, especially with cell phones and everything now. You're constantly having to communicate about these things. You don't get the privilege of taking time for yourself a lot. So that's the challenge that I face, and I understand where people are coming from with that. But what I do, I'm not necessarily looking for you to critique what I do.
Yeah.
I like to keep a lot of money in my operating account, and so I know how much money I've kind of made for the year. So I pay a small salary to myself until about, Q4. And now I'm going to start looking at my income and expenses for the year and look at it back at last year, and then figure out how much I should be paying in Q4. It concerns me a little bit more, because last year was my best year in business ever. It was for a lot of people in real estate, because interest rates were low and we did hundreds of transactions last year. My bill was huge, but then we realized now, finally jointly with my wife, that I could save money. So I actually, for the first time in many years, got a return back. I'm so happy, because that allowed me to use that money for myself, for a few things that I need to better myself. So what you're saying is, and personally, another thing that arose when I didn't take care of knowing how much I was going to owe and not speaking to my accountant earlier, is I was stressing myself out as well as the professional. And what you're saying is that you have a busy season when LLCs are due. You got to meet the deadline by March 15th. And after that, you only have one more month until individuals are due. And you might be doing both for one person. You're doing their corporations and LLCs by March 15th, and then you have to rush then to be ready by the end of April. Now, we've gotten lucky during the last few years with COVID. We've been getting extensions. The government has been extending the deadline, which is nice. But you're saying stay in communication with your accountant to save yourself mental stress of having a big bill and possibly having to get onto a repayment plan, and also for not stressing out your accountant. The family, they'll have to figure it out. Usually we're in 2-income households nowadays, so hopefully we have a safety net of a steady paycheck, but you also have the sales.
Hey, you need to help me with my bill.
Or at least pay the bills while we pay the big ass tax bill we owe now, because we were balling out of control last year with how many deals we closed or whatever.
Yeah.
But so having the right structure, they can talk to you about that, getting maybe an entity in place, or figuring out if they're just going to do this as a sole proprietor, how they should file if they're married, and then also taking deductions, which we'll talk about as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I love how you talked about the expenses and, having a family because, and, having a second income because there's a different, depending on the person, but of what their house looks like and their business looks like and their mindset looks like because it's a lot of mindset battling that you just got to get through as a business owner, right?
You have to make financial sacrifices of tying up your money to the chupas cabras that friggin' suck our blood out with the taxes and the fees at the realty and everything, like, you know what I mean?
You need
and no disrespect to the realties, but
No.
I'm saying sometimes they take a big chunk.
Yes. No, agreed. One of the biggest things of why I really do recommend for people to incorporate themselves is because you have a legal protection. You have a shield. Think of it like you're walking around with this shield. That's what your corporation does for you. Whether you have an LLC, whether you have an S Corp, whether you have a C Corp, whatever it is, if anybody wants to sue you, we have to know that we live in a world of lawsuits. Like people are just
Luckily,
waiting for.
it doesn't happen too often to the realtors or to myself. I've never had it happen, but knock on wood. But it's possible.
So you would be surprised how many I have heard. Where I'll use a simple scenario of you were the seller agent and I was the buyer agent, but you did something wrong. Now the seller is suing you, and because of that contract, they have every right to call in everyone involved in that sale. So they can pull me in as part of the lawsuit because of somebody else. I have seen it. I'm very glad to know that you haven't seen that case, but you would be surprised.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there more so than anything. I think the thing is you can save yourself a lot of trouble as a professional just by being very accountable to your clients and letting them know if you made a mistake, and that if you made a mistake, you might be able to take care of it personally instead of, like, hey, let me make it up to you if I cost you, a few $1,000s. Some attorneys I talked to said, look, if I'm getting sued and the claim is $5,000, I'll just pay it myself. I'm not even going to try to go through the insurance company. But that's not an option for everybody. Maybe they could work out a repayment plan or something. But as far as the corporate protection of having a corporation, LLC, et cetera, is you do have to have the proper insurance to insure what you're doing as well. You either have to have a lot of money in the bank of the operating account of the company, or you have to have insurance to cover that. Most people don't want to burn through their they don't want to burn through their savings, so they have to have insurance then to back up where there is no capital in the business in order to maintain that legal protection. And insurance is not too expensive. I want people to understand that. I was surprised when I talked to my insurance law professor and my former boss, and they're like, you can get $1 million of general commercial general liability coverage, which is what most businesses have, and they might have some specific policies as well, depending on what type of business they're in. But for the general liability, they're like, you can get about $1 million worth of that stuff for like $1,000 a year. People won't realize that.
Yep.
So even if you had a very big lawsuit, pardon me, even if you had a very big lawsuit, you may you'd be good if you have insurance. So you got to have your insurance as well, and that's funny because we're talking about expenses and all this here.
And that is an expense. That is so. Yeah, we got to think. No, this is. I love this. As you know, I am designated to serve as a financial advisor. So that involves investments and insurance as well. I am licensed. MRV does not offer any products at this time. That was very purposeful. So I'm really practicing the services itself, but this is great communication because back to what I was saying of having that LLC, that corporation, that S corporation as your shield protects people from coming to you after your personal assets, your families, what you work so hard for to give to your family. I call it like you're walking around naked, basically, and you are not, like, you're exposing everybody because some people don't believe in insurance. You would be surprised. We'll talk about flippers. In the flipping, in the investors world, not many believe in insurance. They don't understand that, but how cheap it is to buy a large amount of general liability protection. And that is for the purpose of if you were to get sued,
Somebody gets hurt on your property.
somebody gets hurt on
the property burns down.
Anything, right? Well, what do? You have a playing card now. That's kind of like, it's interesting how I see things, but now it's like, you got a deck of cards. Well, how did you play your cards? What did you put in your business? Well, if
you
you're
can
not
deal yourself good cards by just getting insurance and things like that. And one thing I want people to know as well, under insurance law, an insurance company has a duty to defend their insured. That means that the insurance company is obligated to provide an attorney for you to defend you against lawsuits that you get. And that is part of just paying your premiums. You're not paying a big ass retainer or paying hourly for an attorney to defend you against a personal injury lawsuit or for premises liability because there was a defect at the property, somebody slipped and fell or whatever. The thing about lawsuits is that anybody can sue anybody. The question is whether it has merit and whether it will be successful or not. But still, instead of having to pay legal fees to defend yourself, if you have insurance, even if it's a bogus lawsuit, they'll get it dismissed. And if not, they're in it for the long term to help you all the way to trial. Mm-hmm. So let's talk real quickly before we get ready to eat some delicious food here at Ciao. Let's talk about some of the expenses that realtors can take, and also setting up their own separate account for their operating account where their money's going into, where they withdraw as needed, and where they have a debit card so that they can swipe only for their business expenses, keeping it away from the Louis bags.
Louis,
and
not
the
a
Gucci
tax deduction.
and all these other things they want
Unless
to put
you use it wisely.
on their personal card. They can keep their personal stuff separate, and then only gasoline for their car for the business. When they go out for a meeting for lunch, that they can put it on that card. What are the things that they should be? They set up their own account and they have their own account for the business, and they keep those things separate. What are some of the things that's deductible as an expense for a realtor?
Yeah.
Marketing, advertising, all those.
I kind of wish we had like 5 different realtors in front of us. So that they could ask us questions based on how they see it, just because there's so much to talk about. There's so many deductions, so many tax opportunities, so many different tax strategies, right? So I will cover what everyone should know, definitely, and throw in some tips that you may not be aware of. But if you have a vehicle that you use for business purposes, whether you're a realtor, whether you're an attorney, myself, our awesome, videographer
Javi
here,
behind the camera.
Javi behind. You're driving for dollars. You literally, as a 1099, as a business owner, you have the right to claim your vehicle as a tax deduction. Now, there are rules to how to present that. That is probably the biggest problem, knowing the representation of your tax file, right? So what do you need? You need everything about your car, the make and model. You're gonna need to see your odometer. What was it at the beginning of the year? Everyone, please do this, and I say this to everybody. What was it at the beginning
of the year, January 1st, when you're hungover, get your ass in that car.
I love that you're saying this.
And take a look at that odometer, take a picture of it.
Yes.
Remember what date you took it on, January 1st or whatever, and it's on your phone under that date. Send the picture right away, text it to Ruby. Hey,
yes.
It's preserved in outer space text land somewhere.
But before that, before your holiday party or your New Year's party, before you walk out the door, be sure that on 12/31 you take a picture of that odometer, because now we have the end of the year and the beginning of the following year. So you leave to the party, take a picture of your odometer, you come back from the party, take a picture of that odometer and keep a safe record of it, and send it to me. I would happily store it for you. So that is what you need, the beginning and the end. Now you need the sandwich in between, right? What happened? Why did you need to drive all those miles? A record of your mileage is what you need to account for your miles. Let's say that you use your vehicle 50% for your personal and 50% for your business. As long as you keep a record of all of your 50%, you're good. If your vehicle, if you have two vehicles, if you do have the luxury of you solely use your vehicle for your business purposes, then you need to track every single mile, obviously, right? Why is it important? People are like, Ruby, that's so much work. Why are you making me do this? I'm not really making you do anything. I'm trying to put money back into your pocket for an asset.
And also for something that is difficult, because the thing that's difficult, one of the things that's difficult about my job, other than dealing with human emotion, which is probably the toughest part. Right?
And you have an amazing personality for it. You really, really do.
It's tough though, because I got to share it with a lot of people, and I'm juggling like I work for the circus instead of working in a law firm or whatever. But in any event, is that it's an extra, now they have another job responsibility. But what I want realtors to know is there are mileage tracker apps.
Yes.
The ones who don't have it, like the ones who are super savvy, organized, they're usually among the best realtors anyway. But if you have the app on your phone, we use apps for everything. You can sit there and stare at Instagram and people in their friggin' bathing suits and shit. You can use the app to track the mileage as well.
Did you know that maps, you could download your history from there? Did you know? It's as simple as that. If you know.
There you go. Pro tips. You're getting them here at Ciao Ragazzi.
Seriously,
is this MRV Financial?
Thank you. It is as simple as playing with your Maps app, looking at your history, downloading it.
I was doing this showing in Schaumburg that day. I was here in Chicago that day. There you go.
And that's really what we need. If you could justify your mileage, I could promise you that is one of the deductions that the IRS loves to pick at.
Yes,
because they know that you're not really keeping track.
Super exact. Yeah, so you're more likely to get a letter in the mail from the IRS as to a further inquiry or perhaps even audit over mileage. So don't be telling them you drove 100,000 miles last year if you don't have the backup to show it.
Exactly. For everything that you want your representative to do, it is your responsibility to provide that record. That is something that I do want to talk about as well. That's very important. One of the reasons why it is very important for you to have all your paperwork and all your ducks in a row is because my job is to perform the best tax strategy for you to save you more money. There are standard type deductions and there are itemized deductions, okay? So let's say the vehicle, since we're already talking about the vehicle. Once you gather everything, you're gonna give, you're gonna have your gas, your repairs and maintenance, put that on your business card. Yeah, so
your gas on your business card.
When you go, let's say you come to me today and you're like, hey, I want to incorporate and we find the best structure for you. The very first thing I say, as soon as you receive your articles of organization, your EIN from me, and I give you the green light, I need you to go to the bank and open up a bank account and only swipe for business purposes. If you're swiping your business account for personal, you're already targeting yourself that if the IRS were to audit you, they could really blame you for a lot of things because it's not a clean account. A business account is not meant for you to do personal draws. Like I went to the Louis store and I saw a purse. That's considered a personal draw.
Yeah, unfortunately, clothing and accessories are not deductible expenses for business professionals.
They are not,
they should
unless
be, you have, yes, you should be able to deduct that.
Unless you have your brand on it. So you know how.
The team.
Yes.
Mega real estate group.
Put your name on it.
Kings or queens.
Put your name on it, and then it becomes
Property
a tax
group.
deduction. It becomes a tax deduction for you as long as
represent your brand. First of all, nobody's going to invest in it if you don't invest first. Show them that you got something that's worth working with, and then also you'll be able to deduct it for tax purposes. So
another way to get that approved is, hello, we're doing this video, right? We may get some good reaction out of this, right? I could legally, if I really wanted to tax deduct these clothes, I have content for me to say, in order for me to present myself to this person or these people, or let's say my YouTube channel. I also have a YouTube channel. Well, in order for me to take those deductions as my marketing and advertising, well, I need content and I need to produce income. Because then if you're not producing income, you have nothing to take the deductions up against. That is a one that I see all the time, that there is no income, but they want to take all these deductions. And it's like, well, we need income to lower it, because what they do, they lower your tax bill. Let's say that your tax bill, well, obviously if you have no income, you have expenses to report, but what are you gonna put them up against? This is where we come into the problem of reporting a loss on your income. I'm sure you
another
see
thing
it.
is that people need income in order to qualify for purchases too. So some
Yes.
people think, oh, I'll deduct all these expenses and I'll be showing, business owners probably do this a lot, oh, I'm
Yes.
not making a profit. Well, you wanted
You
to buy
can't
that
buy
house
anything.
now, you have a problem. So yes, you do have to show some income, and make sure that if your expenses are there, that they're legitimate.
Yes, that they're legitimate, because there is, such a thing of when you're starting into business, we've all went through this, where you're a founder of your organization, you're self-funding, right? So you need to keep funding until it makes money on its own, and then the idea is that you create such a great platform that it's paying for itself, and now it's actually paying you for all of those years that you put into it, right? So then what's happening, or what happens is, year one, you have to claim these losses because you don't have any income.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, right? Well, year two, you want to do better. Year three, you want to do better.
should be
What you don't
growing,
want to, you should be growing. You don't want to get into the habit of, I just don't want to pay taxes, or I want to get a big refund. Now, if you're getting a big refund, let me tell you, I already hear a red flag there too. Did you know that getting a refund is you overpaying your taxes to the U.S. government or the states, and neither of them are paying you interest.
on your money.
You
The
might
interest
as
rates-
well keep your money.
Interest rates are low as well, but the reason I got a return back this year was just because, out of an abundance of caution, not knowing, since I'm a newer business, we paid more than we needed to, and it worked out really well. But next year, I think we'll be better prepared to.
And this is why talking and having someone on your team is very important, to say, hey, can we do a 6-month review of where I am? Yeah, that does not come included in your tax preparation, because that is, a tax preparation service that they're doing, versus tax planning. It's a whole different service, right? But if they just check up on your accounts, like, hey, am I paying just what I should be paying? Or go back to your history and say, okay, as a business owner, learning how the accounting, because that's really what this is. Accounting is the business language of the business world. That's really what it is. It is the language of the business world. Every business owner, every realtor should know what is an expense, what is an asset for me, and what is a liability. The reason why the three of them are important is because everything that you spend into your business does not create a approved expense record for your business. Now, you do need to know, what am I responsible for? That's where your liability is, right? Well, I am responsible, since we're talking about yourself, I am responsible to pay my mortgage or my rent for my business practice. I am responsible for my payroll. I am responsible for the lights.
Do you offer payroll services through MRV?
Right now, I do not, and that is something that we will offer in 2023.
That's great. So realtors out there, or anybody in the real estate profession, if you're looking to get a payroll done so that you can save some money on your taxes,
That
you
will
can do
be
it through
coming.
MRV Financial. So that's great to hear.
Yes.
So you'll be offering that service.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that we don't offer you how to go about it, right? So then what I'll do is, ADP is a great company where it really depends. A lot of the business owners may have, I see this all the time, they have a partner. One of the partners is usually really good at finances, and then the other partner is really good at the peopling stuff, right?
Yeah, that day-to-day of the business and
Yes.
growth of it.
Yeah, so then the person that's responsible for the day-to-day, like once you do it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, by the time you're the 4th year, you already know exactly what kinds of questions you should be having. You should know, like, okay, based on how I've been paying taxes, this is how much we should be saving, allocating toward our tax bill.
Yeah,
If we could
más
pay
o
it,
menos.
yeah, más o menos somewhere, right? So if you're paying it throughout the year, now I'm not saying getting a refund is a bad thing. There isn't. I don't think there's right or wrong. I think there is indifference from myself as a professional. I cannot tell you, oh, a refund is better than owing owing your bill. Obviously, no one likes to owe money,
You need to know
right?
what their goals and their objectives are. If they're planning to make a purchase with a loan in the next few years, they have to show income.
Exactly.
And they might even have to sacrifice some of the expenses just to show a higher income for qualification purposes.
Exactly.
So basically, you need to assess what their goals are at the beginning. Another thing is also...
And it goes for 2 years too, because they will pull your tax file for the last 2 years. So if you didn't do them right the first year, then you know you got to start from scratch. And okay, they are going to ask me for 2 years. Can I back up the previous year? But go ahead.
So yes, you're saying just responsibility and honesty and knowing your goals well in advance. You got to, especially in this business in real estate, you got to know what your vision for the future is so that you can plan accordingly. And the other point that I was going to make before we kind of wrap up with some of those deductions and talk about rehabbers and people flipping properties is I'm sure you want to tell the realtors, you probably almost want to look in the camera right now and say, for God's sake, and for country, I guess, for God and country, talk to me early when I'm not in my busy season, because you're not going to get, if you put, one of my math professors in college said, if you put garbage into a calculator, you're going to get garbage out, right? Garbage in, garbage out, G-I-G-O. If you come to somebody at the last minute, right before a filing deadline, or you didn't get an extension or something, you have a lot of work to do in a very little amount of time. Honestly, you don't even have to go crazy. You can go on your bank's website and download your income and expenses. It tells you when you've deposited income, you know that's a deposit. Mm-hmm. All your expenses are listed, Home Depot, whatever, blah, 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 advertising, printing, all these things. But the best time to do this is to evaluate from prior years and sit down and break some bread with Ruby.
Yes.
And friggin' talk while you're peaceful. Take a little bit of time in the summer when you get back from a vacation or before you go or whatever. If you can make time for vacation, have a conversation, send in your paperwork as much as you can, as soon as you can, and all your work might be done before the end of the year or close to it or very soon thereafter.
Yes, and I could tell you that is, we do have realtors that we handle, we help them year round. They don't just hire us, they hire us for bookkeeping, they hire us as their financial advisor, as their accountant. I don't just play one hat. I don't just say, oh, it's tax season, come see me during tax season. No, if we have that, and I have people that tell me, can you just serve me? So I become their holistic
one-stop shop.
One-stop shop.
And,
yep.
and I will tell listeners out there from my own, having owned my own business and have to do expenses, the sooner you can keep track of those, the better. And so if you can do it all the time consistently and work with Ruby or somebody like her, but hopefully Ruby, is to get those to account, what do you say, once a month or every 3 months?
So realistically speaking, you should be meeting with your representative once a month. Go over the transactions.
Or at least via phone.
Via phone, yeah. To go over the transactions.
Via email, the documents you need, the expenses, and then you can further clarify, okay, I see this Bed Bath & Beyond. What was it was there that you were purchasing? Mm-hmm.
Ideally, that's what we all want. Now, is it going to happen where that doesn't happen?
Some
at least
people
do
are fire
it quarterly.
sale at the deadline. Some will come to you each month. You will save yourself a lot of stress if you can make the time.
Yes, making the time.
Do an open house together. When you're at your open house, invite Ruby over there. Talk to her on FaceTime while you're there. If nobody's in,
as you
get
know,
your
I
shit
am
straight.
I am
and
always
preserve your sanity.
Yes,
I've been through the stress. I've lost a lot of friggin' time off my life probably around there.
It's true though, because when you're talking in peace, you deal with a situation with a lot more grace.
With a clearer mind.
With a clearer mind, and you're able to really listen to the sound advice of a professional versus when you show up 2 days before the deadline, the very first thing that a very good active practice is going to do is say, hey, in order to not rush through your file, through your work, are you open to having an extension? Otherwise, we're going to do some hotshot tax files, meaning that we're going to go really fast. And, I believe...
They can't hold you responsible for coming to them at the last minute.
I love in producing quality work. That is one of, educating my clients and producing quality work is really where MRV stands behind. We need to educate, and we talk about this.
And what you
We
want people to know
understand
is they will get in, or they will get out
what they put
from
in.
you what they put in. So if they work hard, and here's the thing, another thing I want people to know, and it's one of the things I feel I've learned in my life, is you don't have to work super hard to the point of exhaustion all the time. But if you work a little bit hard consistently, or just put in the bare amount, it will pay you so much in dividends later when you're not stressing, you're not running around to gather this or that, or send this form or have to dig for it, or look through your emails to find it, or download it off the website or whatever.
It allows you to see and learn your paperwork, because I'm sure most people, what we do, we literally present the tax file in a manner that's understandable. This is how you came about owing or getting a refund. Now, when people get a refund, I always say it's okay to get a refund. I rather, there are people that they have anxiety to have to owe thousands of dollars, even $200 owing to somebody. It creates anxiety. So I will always say, if you get back, or if you owe anywhere between $500 and $1,500, that's a very healthy number to get back or have to pay.
Yeah, I agree. That does sound healthy because it's manageable. The funny thing you want to hear, and you'll get a laugh out of this because you probably know that it happens all the time, the Division of Labor, especially in the state government, I got a check for a refund for $100, and then I got a bill for like $80. Like, you just send the money over there, give me a 20, give me a small 20, or friggin', you know what I mean? Or send me a smaller check. Like, now I get a check, I got to go deposit that, but then I got to cut another one and send it out for the $80 I owed. It's like
two different agencies.
It's in the same whole house, and they're not talking to each other.
Yes.
Susie's in the one bedroom and friggin' Jane's in the other, and they didn't friggin' talk to each other about whether I owe and cancel.
So that is very good that you brought up, because Illinois, I look to the way, kind of like when I explain it to people, look at Illinois is our babysitter. They're the ones that we account to, and then Illinois goes and tells mom and dad, hey, they're not doing this, but it's not my responsibility to do anything, it's your responsibility. So they're the jurisdiction that makes sure that we're all following the guidelines. When it comes down to the tax entities, the agencies, they're separated as well. As I don't know if anybody knows that the state of Illinois is one of those states that we pay a flat rate, which is 4.95%. We
I
don't
thought it was
pay
5.25.
4.95%.
Did it
we
go
don't
down?
even, nope.
I always thought it was 5.25 or something is what we paid in Illinois, because it used to be lower. Years ago, it was 3 on the income tax or on the corporation.
Income tax.
Yeah.
Income tax itself is 4.95%.
Okay.
We are one of the states that we're fixed. In order for them to charge us more, they have to have us vote. I don't know if you remember this.
And I spoke out against that too.
Yes.
Because a graduated income tax doesn't punish Governor J.P. Pritzker, because most of his money does not come from an income. It comes from passive investments in stocks and bonds and ownership and family money. My stuff comes from fucking blood, sweat, and tears as a hustling friggin' kid from the South Side, right? I'm the Fighting Irish. I'm one of the last ones left over here, right? Just hustling hard as hell.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so for me, the income tax matters, because I'm earning money with my mind and my time, and that's taxed at a higher rate than other things, which flippers know about as well.
Exactly. So I am glad that you brought that up, because MRV was also one of those loud voices that was, no, do not vote for it. A lot of people didn't understand that, especially
because
the young.
Because they spend millions of dollars of personal money trying to get something passed.
Yes, because they were going to make more money out of us.
The graduated income tax. This is more fair.
No, it's
for
not.
For who? Yeah, not for working people, not for people. You're getting, basically, the more you make, the more they take, and that's what they want to do. They wanted to do what they do at the federal government already and take away our flat tax.
Yes.
The flat tax, in my opinion, is already too high. You go to some of these other states, and it's 3%, or maybe less, maybe more.
But the fact that we're not forced to change it, that is
they were going to have to amend the Constitution, I think, to do that. That's an almighty thing to do, and that's part of the reason why they lost. But thank God they did. You hear that, politicians? While you're listening, you want to keep getting our votes? You released the tax bill late this year, right after the election. 1 week later, we're getting the property tax bill in Cook County for 2021. And we don't need the graduated income tax here. Find another way to get your money. You know what I mean? We make an honest living. You should freaking tax us honestly as well. Let's keep it flat and let's lower it if we can.
So basically,
You know
what
what I mean?
people said during that time was, how about you learn to manage your money first, and then maybe we could talk about giving you more. And you know, that's one of the things that if you're going to be
don't know how
giving
to manage
people
your
money
money.
that they don't, yes.
You can't keep on giving more money to people that aren't accountable for it. They don't have to run a business that sinks or fails because they don't never fail. They're just there. They're a government. And of course, there's a lot more that goes into in that.
Oh yes, that's a whole different conversation, but that's a good conversation to even implement something so simple within your business. That, you know what, if you're not managing your money properly, you can expect someone else to give you advice on, you don't even know how to present it to somebody. So allocating money for your expenses, you know, when you think of expenses, what did it take for me to earn that money? Did I have to drive? Well, I used my vehicle. Did I have to take someone out for lunch in order to make that deal, right? That's a business meeting that I had to do. Did I have to
spend money on photography for your open house?
That's a tax deduction
That's
right there.
advertising costs.
Gifts that you give to your clients, you know, and these all have different increments.
Gifts that you give to your clients, did you say? I didn't think those were deductible.
Yes.
Gifts that you give to your clients are
Yes,
deductible?
are
Okay, well then,
deductible.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Ho, ho, ho. I'm coming with a fat Santa sack full of tequila and fucking gift cards and shit.
Yeah, so now, and you also got to remember, everything has a bracket. You know, don't take everything so black and white to say, well, Ruby said that, you know, I bought this gift and it's tax deductible. Everything has a bracket, right? Just like meals has a bracket. Gifts have a limit on
How much you can give.
how much you could give, but business to business owner, if it's a gift that builds your business, then I can deduct it 100%. So let's say I buy you a really nice Keurig coffee machine for your office. I can tax deduct that 100% because it's gonna make you money.
So to summarize what we were talking about with deduction of expenses to save realtors money on their income taxes, we talked about mileage on your vehicle and how you can track it through apps or through downloading your travel history from Google Maps. We also talked about deducting gasoline, which if you know the percentage of time you've driven your car for personal use and you have the total of your gas spent during the year, you should be able to figure out roughly how much you would be able to deduct for gas deductions on your taxes. We also talked about the fact that right now it's about 56 cents per mile that you can deduct from your gas and save that 56 cents per mile, and it may also be going up because of the increased costs and inflation and gas prices going up. So then we mentioned other expenses are deductible for realtors, advertising, whether it be print, mailing, online, social media leads that are, if you're working with Zillow or things, or whoever that provide you leads, those are expenses. Then we also talked about gifts to clients, with the exception of alcohol and tobacco, and to other businesses as well. You mentioned that the gifts are deducted at a lower percentage, not outright. And then was there anything I was missing, or you mentioned a couple of things that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add, if you work from home as well, you know, a lot of realtors work from home. Here is your home office deduction. Do not leave that on the table.
Because it can be high, right?
Those are, yes. So treat your home office deduction like you would your car, where it's going to be the office.
At the realty and you work there as well, you can still take a deduction if you use that as a legit home office.
If you use it as a legitimate home office, yes.
This
and if you're paying rent,
yes.
And if you're paying rent, like some of the folks have it taken out of their paycheck to use this office. But if you're also using your home office for really random stuff, like this is where you're actually pulling in the contracts, you're doing in the heavy work. And your office, you're really using it for visits and all of that.
Yeah, people come in, you have an in-person meeting, they sign some stuff, but you don't necessarily bring everybody into your home for those things.
Correct.
But when you're making the offers and sending it via DocuSign or getting things signed, that's business that you're doing in your home office. Maybe you're doing your leads there and your phone calls as well. How much can people deduct on average for their home office?
So that is based on the square footage of the
room
itself. So let's say you have a, let's say 1,300 square feet home or apartment or condo, and you're using 300% of it, then all your expenses that come in your NIC or your gas.
Or 30%, you mean?
Or
if the total is 100% of the home, you're using
300 square feet,
300
then we're
square
going
feet
to
of it,
use
yes.
the pro rate of the 300 square feet to prorate the expenses of the whole unit.
Yeah, so it's a percentage of the, it's based on the space you're using.
Exactly.
How does that play out? So if I'm taking a deduction for, you know, that 300 square feet,
so
that's considered like rent payment that's deductible or something?
So rent, mortgage interest, utilities.
30% of those costs.
So let's say it is a 30%, whatever the
300 square feet.
Yes.
You take the total and you subtract that out from the square footage and prorate based on that. So to be clear, proration, that means a proportionate share.
Yes.
I believe in Latin or something like that. Okay, and then there was one more thing besides home offices.
Commissions paid to other realtors because they did a showing for you.
Ah, that's huge because that happens all the time.
They do it all the time. Treating your business like you're a real business is going to be the very first thing that you're going to do right by yourself.
To make yourself successful.
To make yourself successful. If you pay anybody over $600 in service, you should be giving them a 1099 at the end of the year.
Not everybody likes that because then it's a chain of, then that person has to do withholding on their 1099 as well. But
having the conversation up front is the golden rule. Don't assume, never assume.
You're going to 1099 somebody.
That you're going to 1099 them at the end of the year. Never assume that. No, you should say, hey, in order for me to work with you, I have to provide you, you know, if we make over if I pay you over $600, I have to give you a 1099 at the end of the year. Would you be okay with that? And then if I don't, if I don't get to the 600, well, obviously you're not going to get a 1099. It's being very thinking ahead and not thinking in the back, because guess what happens when it comes down to closing it out. Oh yeah, I paid so-and-so, my photographer, $1,000. Well, did you give them a 1099 or did they give you an invoice? And that's really the biggest thing.
Sorry to bother you guys.
No worries, you're not bothering us at all.
Oh, look at this.
Oh my goodness.
A
crab cake, it looks like, in the middle there, and some bruschetta.
With some apple salad, bruschetta, you know, fresh tomato, mozzarella, and that's Ciao Ragazzi bruschetta with crispy onion on top.
Well, thank you very much, Lupe.
I love it.
We didn't even ask for this, but this is the kind of treatment we get here at Ciao Ragazzi. And I wanted to say earlier, we'll maybe switch this back into an earlier time in the video. Thank you, first of all, for letting me do this. I know it's not easy to have your own business and to work hard for it and to provide the time and space to us. Thank you very much for having us here and for this kind of hospitality. We're about to wrap up shortly and order food, and I can't wait because I am hungry.
We are ready to eat.
I only had a yogurt today with some vitamins and stuff, so I'm ready to go. In fact, maybe we'll start munching on this just a little bit as we go.
This will be how we turn into it, yeah.
So we'll transition there. So
yeah.
We'll take a quick break in a little bit, and we'll order. And just so the viewers out there know, Lupe told me that Ciao Ragazzi basically is like saying hello friend or hello family, like cousin or brother or something like this. Compadre, right? In their logo, which I'll add in probably on the video later, you have, you know, a wine glass with a spoon and a fork, the words Ciao Ragazzi and two hands shaking there, signifying like hello friend. And it's a very welcoming thing. And your daughter, if you want to come in real quick, your daughter did the design for you.
Everything.
And she's how old?
Well, now she's doing 15, but she was 14 when she made it.
14. A beautiful professional logo, simple yet effective, and it suits this restaurant perfectly.
She's like, it's mine. Let me trademark her. Let me copyright it. That's yours.
Well, I think you can be very proud of everything you've done here. You know, throughout the years, because the atmosphere here, the music, the staff, the logo, what it stands for. We wish you many years of prosperity here. I believe you're one of the biggest assets to this community, that people have a nice sit-down restaurant to come to. There's a lot of places that are, it's more of a sports bar or whatever. No disrespect to them. This is that sit-down place where you have a good
Enjoy
family meal.
it. Music, not too loud, nothing crazy. Keep it families.
It's a nice, peaceful experience. I cannot wait to try the food.
You're gonna love
Definitely
it.
can.
Well, thank you,
Take a look,
Lupe.
and then when you need any menu, I can help you.
Sounds
Thank
great.
So
Thanks a
enjoy.
bunch.
Sorry to be in the middle.
No, we're
We're
getting
good.
just
We
ready
were
for it
about
anyway.
to transition.
Thank you.
So I think this is a
Look
very
at
good
this,
natural
folks.
transition.
Bruschetta and
Can you
crab
move
cakes
this?
here. I'm sure they look delicious too, especially being under lights like this. They look crispy and shiny and delicious.
Yes.
So before we chow down here, we summarized the main expenses for realtors. For people doing rehab, we probably could get through a little more quickly. What I wanted to know and what I want the viewers to know is, you have a lot of, every business transaction has costs. So when you're selling a home, that's a business transaction. You're gonna have to pay taxes on it, and it's a capital gains tax if you're doing it as a business investment. The question, the tax is higher if you sell within the first year, and then it's a long-term gain if you sell after the first year. So it depends on how long you have it. Long-term capital gains are taxed at, is it 15% or 20%?
The long-term, 15%.
Long-term is 15.
Versus short-term
Short-term is based on your income tax rate. So whatever you earn, let's say you also have another business or you're just an employee at, ABC Incorporated, if you're paying 30% that year, you
work
also
for
have to
it.
pay 30% of the gain. Now, what I also want people to understand when I talk about money and accounting, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a tax attorney, so just so you know that, but I have a general knowledge of this, and I'm also sitting with somebody who is licensed to do this, these taxes, so she can confirm what I'm saying or correct me, is that as far as the rate, then the gain is just what you made over what you paid. So if you pay $100,000 for a property and you sell it at $150,000, you have a $50,000 gain. That's the only thing that's subject to taxation.
Yes.
And you from there whittle that down. You hear people saying, well, for cars and things on the news, taxes, title, insurance. Taxes, I think, are never deductible, unfortunately. So the property taxes you pay on the property, you can't deduct those. But you can deduct title insurance costs. You
Yes.
deduct realtor commissions as an
Correct.
expense of selling.
Correct.
So just so you know, as a seller, like those are things you should be taking to reduce your tax liability.
Your legal
Work with a good
fees.
accountant, legal fees, attorney fees,
Your accountant's
cost
fees.
surveys.
Yes.
You say account fees, like the fees that you get charged as part of having a bank account.
Your accountant
Oh,
or
accountant,
yes, your legal representation is tax deductible.
These are all things you have to pay to make the money that you
yes.
make. Or and so what, am I missing anything? And then we had
Your materials
loan related costs like interest on the loan
Yes.
if you have a short term loan, so
correct.
you have a property.
Your interest on this, so if you have those hard money loans, you can deduct the interest on it. If you had a mortgage on the property that's a regular loan, but then you flipped it a year later, or if you did it within whatever interest you paid is also whatever it costs for you to refurbish this house to bring it back to life, the materials, the manpower. Labor is huge. We all like, it's one of your biggest expenses, and one of the things is huge because back to what we were talking about earlier about handing out 1099s, that should be a very natural conversation of asking whoever you're doing business with, hey, I provide a 1099 to everyone, and if in the event you make over $600 in doing business with me,
Do you get 1099s
I do.
from your clients?
Not from my clients. No, because you get an invoice from me.
Yeah.
So an invoice
just an
is an expense
Yes.
for you, right? But let's say that you have contractors who you're constantly calling back for your rehabs, then they're not going to give you an invoice, right? No, some of them don't. If you put them on a 1099, then you just give them a 1099 at the end of the year,
For how much money you paid 'em.
for how much money you paid them. Yes. So
Have
this
that
is one.
conversation up front.
Have it up front because that is one of the tax deductions.
Keep your receipts for materials
gets
from
audited.
Home Depot and Menards and wherever else.
It's like the auto deduction where they know you're not keeping track of it and your invoices might not be properly allocated. It's a very easy way for you to get audited. And if you cannot prove it, and if you're constantly doing business with the same people, you should have a very natural conversation. Hey, how do you get paid? Do I need to give you a 1099 at the end of the year, or how does it work with you? And
So
they'll
that's
be
the
able to
value
tell
of
you.
talking to you soon so that you can talk to your own people right away. You know, one of the things I say is that experience is a great teacher, but it's also the toughest teacher. If you have to
Yes.
learn the hard way, it's like the old saying, fool me once. Once you've been fooled, you'll learn that lesson. Hopefully you do. Otherwise, you're just causing yourself needless pain.
Correct.
Are there any other expenses that a rehabber would need to know when they can take?
For a rehabber, because you know a rehabber is kind of like a construction company, right? So it is common for them to wear work boots, like those steel toe boots, right? Some of the
When they're on the job site.
clothing is a tax deduction for you because you're getting dirty in there. You're needing this, if you buy the goggles to protect yourself, if you're buying any materials to protect your contractors, that's also a tax deduction for you. A lot of people don't even think like, oh, I had
The
to buy
insurance
him
for your
the
business.
insurance for your business. We already talked about, the legal fees, the entities. If you have to pay any fees
When
to
you say
answer
entity
that
fees to renew your LLC, that's deductible.
that's deductible for you.
Keep 'em coming,
If
Ruby.
it's making you money, then you should be able to take the tax deduction. Now, let's say, for instance, something that does happen or I have seen. You went to Home Depot and you bought some dishes because it's gonna make the place look pretty. That has nothing to do with the construction of the
making
company.
money, yeah. So if you go out and buy the most expensive tables and the fanciest things, those might not be deductible.
Those become assets because if you're someone that's constantly having to dress up the apartment so that you could sell it a lot faster, you're obviously keeping the furniture for the next rehab, right? So that becomes an asset for you. And that's something that becomes depreciated. We didn't even talk about depreciation.
That we'll
One of
do
my
another
favorite
time,
ones.
maybe
But
part two.
I would love to talk about depreciation.
It's an interesting discussion, and there's a lot there
Yes,
just because
so much.
a lot of rehabbers may not have depreciation depending on whether they own their own equipment or whether they own their own
Thank you.
building.
Yes.
If you're just you have an LLC set up, you have a business address that you're using somebody's let you use. You're not going to be able to deduct off necessarily unless you have a home office that you're using for legitimate purposes. And even then, it's only a prorated proportionate share.
Correct.
So yeah, if you have a building that you're paying on, those are other expenses, as well as if you're a rehabber, maybe you have a Bobcat,
That's
asset
equipment.
that's worth $30,000, and you can
Exactly.
deduct a little bit each year.
Your
Depreciation.
vehicle, whether you're a realtor, whether you're a flipper, whether you're me, we're in business. We're in the business of, making a sale. Your vehicle also becomes a depreciation asset over time if you spend X amount of money.
Depreciation is almost like a repeated deduction for something until you can't take it anymore.
And it's a very
And then
healthy
there's another
one.
complicated concept called recapture of depreciation. I
Yes!
think what the viewers need to know.
I love this
I love
conversation.
how you laugh and enjoy talking about accounting because it so well, it's clear. I think the message is really clear is talk to your professionals like
Yes.
Ruby to find out these things so you know that you're saving as much money as possible because we know how hard everybody works out there for it in America.
Yes.
We work under different conditions. I know that there's very bad conditions overseas, but we work hard here too, and life is complicated. So we should be saving every dollar we can and not letting them take away from it. Keep what's belonged to you.
Your responsibility is to pay taxes and no more than that. There is no reason why you should be overpaying in taxes. No reason.
Well, thank you, Ruby. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with the food and show you how delicious that is and wrap it all up here. And we'll be right back with you.
Be back.
All right. Welcome back with us, everybody here. As you can see, we got our food now, so this is a very happy time. I feel like it's Thanksgiving or Christmas early here.
It's a happy dance everyone does when they get their food.
The happy dance. I mean, I don't do it personally, but there will be a flavor country where I'm going to right now but I know what you mean, yes. So, Ruby likes seafood, so what is this dish that you have here?
So there is seafood pasta. You did talk about their pasta is
Homemade.
made here,
Yeah,
homemade.
homemade
So I
right
just
here
had
in
to
the
try it. I had to try it. So that is what I have. So I have a little bit of everything. There is shrimp, there are scallops, there is calamari in here.
And a white cream sauce, it appears?
Yes, an Alfredo sauce, a creamy sauce. So I can't wait to try it.
Try that out.
Definitely not a box pasta.
No.
The flavor alone, very soft. The sauce obviously is Alfredo, one of my favorites. And I had a piece of calamari, very, very nice, and it's not chewy, so that's good.
Okay. My cousin came here, and he's from Wisconsin. I don't think they have too many good Italian restaurants where he's from. He's like, dude, that's the best pasta I've ever had. For me, I have a nice steak sandwich here. It has some cheese and peppers. It looks very juicy, and I'm also going to put a little bit of olive oil on my plate to dip the bread in to keep it moist, but it feels nice and crispy, perfectly toasted. If you're like me, you're going to like your bread toasted. And also here I have their French fries. I've never had Ciao's French fries before, but they're very, very good. They put a little bit of Parmesan on there, so I have a little cheese as I'm biting into them. They're thin and they're light, but very, very tasty. And I like the thin and light ones because, you know, I'm losing a little bit of weight and I'm trying to stay light, right, and moving quick so I can take care of business better. And so I can't wait to eat these French fries. I'm so hungry. I barely had like a yogurt this morning and those appetizers. Let me take a bite in this steak sandwich.
Let's see how it is. I will continue with mine. This pasta's amazing.
This is a steak sandwich that's worth trying. Like I said, the bread is crispy and it was very juicy. When I bit into it, I could taste a nice hint of salt. Very juicy. The steak is cooked very well. It's tender yet with a little bit of singe and flavor on the outside. And I have the peppers in there too. This is really incredible. These French fries, very delicious. I can't wait to murder them. But I don't want to look like Porky the Pig on camera over here, so we're going to sign off and enjoy the rest of our food. The food sells itself. Come on over to Ciao, support local business, and you know, discover why we dine here frequently. I want to thank Javi behind the camera for all of your hard work, and say your company name for us one more time, please.
Modern Realty Studio.
Modern Realty Studio. If you need good camera work and a man you can depend on, Javi and his studio will take good care of you. When it comes to financial advice, look no farther than Rubi Velazquez. She's right here, and she's there to help you as well. Talk to her early and often so that neither of you are stressing around tax time.
Yes.
And take care of yourself and your business, because nobody else is going to do it for you, and you'll get more out of it as a return on your investment in yourself and your business if you take care of things that you need to take care of. And as for me, real estate attorney Brian Tierney. I do other things as well, but it's mainly real estate. I have my hands pretty full with that. I'm right here on the southwest side of Chicago, 6348 South Central, and I'm all over social media and the internet, so you can find me there and contact me and my staff to help you out with all your real estate needs. If there's something that I don't do, odds are I have a good friend or a business partner that I can refer you to as well. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you found this information very useful, and tune in next time, the next episode of Breaking Bread with Brian. Thanks again, everybody.
Bye.
I have a choice of a small or a medium, and it has, like, I don't know if you... They're pre-washed, so they're a little smaller than they would normally be, but they don't shrink anymore.
I'll take the small then.
Okay. It's up to you. You can try it before you leave if you'd like.
Blue, this is
Life
your...
University podcast. So that's the podcast, and it's got the logo, and on the back it has the website. So you can...
I love this. You're recording already, right?
Yes.
Check out his...
The Blessed Life University podcast T-shirt.
I need
more
t-shirts
apparel
now.
to come too. I love how that logo looks. It's very big and energetic and electric. And you also have a bottle of Centenario
This-
from
straight
Mexico.
from Mexico. It's got the stamp. It doesn't lie. Oh, well, now I feel bad about my gift.
I thought they were equal gifts. It looks like you're giving me a bottle as well. I don't know why you would feel bad about that.
Let's see what happens. Mine requires explanation as well. So
Goose
that
Island, Bourbon County, bourbon whiskey.
These-
So, brewed, barrel aged, and bottled by Goose Island Beer Company in Chicago. I've never tried this, so that alone makes me excited. This is brand new for me. So thank you very much, Ruby, for this. And I feel like there's something else. in
yeah,
here.
so these are specialty
Okay.
and very hard to come by.
Really?
So before you drink it,
Then
do
I don't
your
know why.
homework.
I will.
No, you totally
And
could
I was
drink
gonna say,
it.
I
I'm
don't know
just
why you'd
letting you
feel
know.
bad. I don't know why you would feel bad giving me that thing.
Because this one came from Mexico.
So what? This one is hard to come by.
I'm supposed to be gifting you this stuff.
No. Let me see
But
what
yeah,
else we
that's,
got here. Ruby's always very thoughtful with gifts. Christ almighty, it's all heavy. What is all this here?
So this is for your business cards.
Okay.
So as a sample, you could give these, so you would put your business cards and then give them to your people, whoever your favorite people are, so they could put like on a
It has the
magnet.
sticky. You just put your card on there, makes it nice and easy for you to do at
Yeah,
home.
so that's
perfect.
some to add to your marketing stuff. So whatever you want to buy yourself or your business.
And same thing with postcards.
And then
type of
same thing
thing?
with this one. So I don't know if you remember getting my calendars every year.
Yes. I
That's
keep
what
them right on my filing cabinet because it's metal and it sticks to it right there.
That's
in
what
office.
these are for.
Perfect.
So I didn't know what you could potentially use it for. So I was like, I think these are
Refrigerator,
nice gifts for.
So we got magnets for the business cards and for
The little card.
your advertising that you can put on the fridges. Thank you very much for sharing this with me.
This is a card for you.
Oh, this is for me. It's a personal message
Yes.
here, which I'll keep. I'll just keep for myself, I guess. And then lastly, what do we have here?
Some.
Oh, just an Amazon gift card. All right. Well, your boy uses Amazon all the time. I need
Who
my
doesn't,
vitamins
right?
delivered directly to the house. Well, thanks a bunch, Ruby. I didn't expect that, but
No, my pleasure.
you enjoy and I'll enjoy too.
Yes. Thank
All right,
you.
be good, y'all. That was the little after
Dinner
take.
or
Yes.
no lunch.
Be good, y'all.